Okay, so everything's lighting up, the fans are going on. What I'm not getting is a single beep that is typical when you start up a computer. Also typical is that the keyboard has an LED that will also light up, and then it goes into the post test, which is power on self-test. It makes sure everything's connected and all that kind of thing. It should give one beep to say everything's cool. It's not giving any beeps at all, so that's a bad thing. So when you're troubleshooting at this stage, what you got to do is start pulling things apart. I took the hard drives, unplugged those from the board here, powered up again, nothing. I've just taken out the memory, and what should happen is the post test will say, hey, there's no memory going on, and I should get basically a few beeps. The board said, the motherboard guide says one continuous beep and two short beeps with a pause, and then it keeps repeating. So let's see. Indeed. So we are getting the post, which is a good sign. So rather than putting all the memory back in, I'm just going to put one stick of memory back in, because that's the bare amount we need to do this. And every time you do this, it's a hassle, but you got to power down and preferably even unplug from the back wall there. And we'll put one stick of RAM back in to slot 1 here. I didn't like the way that went in. There we go. Plug the back in, turn that on, and front power. So one stick of RAM is enough to figure out the post test to keep the beeps from going, so we know it's getting that far. If it wasn't detecting the monitor, it would be giving us a bunch of beeps as well, similar to the memory but different. If there was a hardware failure, we'd also be getting beeps. None of that is going on. So that escalates us to the next issue. If we're not getting a signal to the monitor, maybe it's the graphics card. So, even though the post test is telling it's detecting VGA, what we will do now is power down and we'll try an entirely different graphics card. Okay, so I'm back to the original graphics card. I put it into the slot below. That didn't do anything. The other graphics card didn't really do anything. It's powering up, but for some reason it's not getting any signal to the monitor or the keyboard. Looking around, I think I figured out what it was. I hadn't plugged the power into the hard drives. So I've plugged those back in. Let's put some juice on there. And does anyone out there want to take some bets? I am betting we get a BIOS. Okay, so I'm running out of ideas here, but the final one that I came up with, and this was a stretch, was that I decided to look back at what it said on the board here for the memory. And it's probably not legible, but rather than going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it goes A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So I moved the sticks over from A2 to A1, B2 to B1, C2 to C1. Now, let's plug this back in, flip the power on. We're getting power to the keyboard because it's lighting up. We got power to the motherboard because that's lighting up. So next up, power switch. Keyboard lit up. Monitor's giving me. BIOS is beeping. Keyboard light is on. Monitor says out of range. So the graphics card is giving this monitor 1024 by 768, and this monitor is an old piece of crap that will only take 800 by 600. However, this is really great stuff. We've got the light on the keyboard. This was critical. We heard the single BIOS beep. That was critical. We've got the power LED. Everything's powered up. The graphics card is at least sending something over here to the monitor, which is great news. So, I can't use this monitor over here because that's already in use. I've got a monitor coming in a couple days, but I'd really like to dig into the BIOS now. Alright, one more option. We'll pull this monitor out of the loop. I'm just really glad the system works. So you can see that this isn't even necessarily a straightforward situation, even for somebody who knows what they're doing, or relatively so. So while you can save hundreds, if not $1,000 building your own computer to your own specs, you are your own tech support. And if you're not comfortable with that, then paying the extra money to any of the big companies that will build the computer for you. Alright, so I didn't want to have to bring the big guns out here, but I gotta know that this thing is working now at this point. I'm very sure it is. I had some doubts for a few minutes. We've got the power on, the video's connected. Let's power up. We should see the keyboard lights go. Nice. We should see something over here, a little flicker. There we go. Nice. Got a power over here. We got a list of a couple drives. And we've got a reboot command telling us there is no system device. So what we'll do here is get into the BIOS at long last. This is where I wanted to be a little while ago now. Better late than never is what I'm saying on this point.